Well, hey folks, it's your old pal King Waspinator, and welcome back to Total Party Skills. I guess I'm over in my little forest patch on the edge of the property, and I'm out of the office. So, welcome back to Total Party Nature. I don't know. As subscriber counts go up and views go up, the comments that come in get proportionally worse. Newcomers who don't really understand what the channel's vibe is, or people who are just watching and hate commenting and aren't even bothering to hit the subscription button, who also fall into the category of not really knowing what the vibe is and all that kind of stuff. Look, folks, YouTube is a place full of clickbait. Like almost all YouTubers, to some degree or another, engage in such things. This is how we discover new audiences or get a feel about whether or not certain topics might be worth delving further into and all that kind of stuff. But, it is all a cynical ploy to lure people in, all the off chance that maybe 1 out of 100 of you might actually want to shell out a little bit of money and buy one of my books. And the subject matters that I choose to discuss, whether or not I have any valid expertise in the field or not, a la Battletech, is kind of designed because I'm trying to scoop people who might be interested in reading some independently written, very tongue-in-cheek, provocative kind of role-playing games and such. And so it's all part of the game. The thing that I noticed, though, and it's hardly anything that's unique to my channel, it's kind of endemic to, if not YouTube at large, the social medias at large, is everyone has become pretty conditioned to basically be scanning everything that they're coming across, looking for certain keywords and concepts so they can quickly identify which faction that they're listening to and whether or not they want to agree with it. And that's pretty lame. The problem with this planet isn't capitalism, isn't communism, isn't fascism, isn't peacenik hippies. It's none of that. It's the fact that, we're kind of a panic mode type species here, especially in recent years. We've been pumped full of fear and panic against each other. Because, it's better to market internationally if you don't alienate countries where you want to sell your products in and all that kind of stuff. So it's easier to vilify your own, because then no one will accuse you of, being against stuff. But, some of it ties in with the idea of whether or not people even have identities and the lame ways that people try to assign themselves identities, which is exacerbated by social media because, you have to fill in your little profile thing and tell people about you and what kind of person you are and what you're up to, and you only got this little tiny box on Twitter to do it in. So, suddenly you're reducing yourself down to a person you voted for one time, or a particular kind of sex you like, or what kind of hobbies you're into, and that's not you. Those are things that you do. Those are things that you might align yourself with. But that's not actually your identity. Your identity is a nameless thing that can't be labeled, and is only you, and you alone are the possessor of it. And considering that we're lonely social animals who are being further and further isolated from each other and all that, it feels unsatisfactory. You want people to be able to understand you. And so we all resort to these types of shorthand conversations, certain common talking points to let people know that whether or not you're on the same team. And, I'm tired of it sometimes. An unfortunate reality about YouTube is that there's a fuck ton of YouTubers who, have tons of shit already to say on pretty much any given subject one way or the other. You don't need me to tell you that D&D is good. You don't need me to tell you that D&D is bad. There's hundreds of other people out there to do that for you. And, like I said, I'm mostly just here to try to just, find people who might be interested in my actual products that I have for sale. I'm not even selling like merch in the way that YouTubers do. We're like, hey, you can get a mug or a t-shirt with the Total Party Skills logo on it. Yeah, that way anyone who comes to your house and sees it won't know what the fuck that is. Yay! You know, I don't do any of that kind of shit. You know, I started the writing project around the same time I started the channel. The channel is entirely an advertising platform for myself. And so whether or not I want to go into full details about like my opinions on Hunter the Reckoning 5th edition or any of that other kind of stuff, it's up to me. And no one's holding a gun to your head telling you to watch this shit. So, I mean, what, you couldn't tell by my thumbnails? These are probably kind of cheap-ass videos recorded by a dude who smokes too much weed and is often inspired to do, you know, video type topics while in the midst of being really high, which is not necessarily the best time to be trying to articulate your thoughts clearly and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, so what? Like, this platform is full of morons. I mean, there's people out there who are certainly smarter than me, and there's people out there that are dumber than me. You could do worse, you could do better. It should all largely be something of personality. A thing I frequently get, one of the things that started to annoy me about Legion of Myth, actually, and the few times I went on there, is, and how frequently I hear this particular comment, though, over the years of, well, I don't agree with this guy, but he makes you think. Well, you know, that's kind of an odd thing to say to your guest. It's an odd thing to kind of just say to anybody. Like, oh, well, you know, you're thought-provoking, but I just can't bring myself to, you know, admit to agreeing with any of it, especially when I'm around my other peers. You know, the smart guy in the group doesn't approve of my particular, you know, way of looking at things, where I kind of strip out a lot of the bullshit. People don't really know why they like what they like. We're all programmed by stuff that happens to us as kids. We're all assholes. You know, does it ever occur to anyone as to, like, why nerds were so disliked? I remember when I was a kid, I got picked on a lot. Didn't really understand it. But years later, looking back, kind of realizing that, well, you know, I brought a lot of that on myself in part because of just how I am, and in part because of how I was raised by my artistic parents. You know, you kind of have a bit of an ego as a young child when you think that you're intelligent, you know, and always, you know, being the first to raise your hand to answer questions, and always not having to know best, and always having to be right and all that kind of stuff, and being really dismissive to people who seemed stupider and all that kind of stuff. And then, so yeah, go figure that those people, like, end up picking on you mercilessly because it's in a way their own form of self-defense, creating this great, long, eternal cycle that many of us are on of kind of constant counter-reactions and retaliation of sorts, especially since the way we use labeled identities to try to fix ourselves into various subgroups. Then suddenly you're able to take things personally that didn't even happen to you because it happened to somebody that you've decided on your own to factionally align yourself to. So therefore, if, you know, you're a flat earther, then suddenly, you know, so anything that happens to, you know, Alex Jones, you take personally because it could have been you, kind of a thing. When in reality, that dude's on his own path. You're on your own path. I'm on my own path. Everyone's on their own fucking path. It really has nothing to do with each other unless we choose to directly interact. Part of why I felt like kind of coming back here and shooting this back here is just this little reminder that we do live in a real world full of stuff. And occasionally it's good for us to pull ourselves out of our little artificial boxes and away from our machines. And just remember to breathe. I mean, hell, how much of the doom and gloom that grips so much of our society about the fate of the environment and all that is kind of just born out of the fact that people never fucking get out of the cities. So of course the world looks like it's about to die. You get far enough out in the country and it's like, I don't know. I don't see all this being gone in 12 years, but who am I to say? You know, that's just one man's opinion. I don't know. I'm not even sure what the point of any of this is, which if you've noticed, for regular viewers, I end quite a few of my videos where I'm like, I'm not even sure what the fuck I'm talking about. But the algorithm demands that I keep putting out content, otherwise I'll be forgotten, laid to rest in the great hallways of long-lost YouTubers. I don't know, it's all horse shit. And, yeah, I don't know. Get over yourselves. The cycle can't be broken until somebody decides to walk away from it. The tit-for-tat type stuff that goes on isn't going to bring things to an end. That just continues the cycle of retaliation. Kind of a Israel-Palestine kind of a thing. It doesn't matter who's to blame, especially if for things that have been going on now for centuries. It just matters that we're making ourselves fucking miserable, and we're making other people miserable, and we're blinding ourselves to actually be able to listen. It's weird for a platform that's based on people making all these long-form videos talking about all sorts of stuff, deep, in-depth, scripted presentations, and yet people, like I said, I'm just judging by a fraction, not all, but a fraction of my comments, and also just of what I've observed on other channels over the years, is that, you know, people are just kind of skimming things half-assed with their brains, and so they're just kind of listening for certain key phrases, certain words that they can cue off of, and then they'll have a reaction to. The amount of times I've seen people leave comments because they latch on to one word I said and then didn't hear the rest of the fucking video because their brain started working overtime and oh my god, he said something positive about this, and not listening to everything I had to say after that, or oh my god, he said something negative about this, without listening to anything else that was said past that point. That's not how you listen to shit. You know, you're just basically being Pavlovian dogs, you know, responding to whistles. And once again, if we're all as smart as we like to fucking pretend we are, shouldn't we be better at not being susceptible to that kind of stuff? So anyway, I guess take that as you will. Hit like and subscribe, as always, for all this great content that you get from Total Party Skills. Be sure to check us out on DriveThruRPG and look our stuff up on YouTube and Amazon.com. Spend the money. Give me the money. And go fuck yourselves.